Most cartoons give missing dads some heroic reasons for being gone. Adventure Time kept Finn's biological father, Martin, off-screen for 5 seasons, letting us imagine him as another hero like Joshua. But then we finally meet him. And so, by making Martin this deeply selfish, the show taught us everything about masculinity, by showing us exactly what it isn't. Now, look, before we go any deeper into Martin's nonsense, this is probably a good place to actually talk about what I mean when I say healthy masculinity, because Martin is a masterclass in doing the opposite of all of it. I'm not talking about being tough or being the strongest guy in the room or any of that toxic alpha male garbage. Real masculinity is about something different. Like, let's go back to that first episode where we met him. You'll see what I mean. When they first broke Martin out, Jake tells Martin that Finn is his son, and Martin's response is just the worst.
Son? Oh, hey, good for you, kid.
Dude is meeting his son after, 16 years and literally could not care less. But the scumbag switches up pretty quick when the Guardian shoots him in the leg. So he manipulates Flynn, yeah, he actually calls him that, to go fetch Guardian blood so he can heal, weaponizing the father-son relationship that Finn desperately wants just to get what he needs in the moment.
Your old man needs ya.
Then Finn confronts him about why he abandoned him, and Martin goes,
I don't know. It was a long time ago. Who knows? Like, maybe you left me.
Gaslighting his own son just to get what he wants. And this isn't the first time he's going to do that either. You see that Martin views vulnerability as a weakness, something that can be exploited, never something that actually requires him to show up or do anything for anyone. Throughout every interaction we see of him, Martin deflects any attempt at genuine connection because vulnerability terrifies him more than actual physical danger. The Visitor is one of the most important episodes for understanding how deep this avoidance goes. When Finn meets Martin after he crashes back on Earth, Martin immediately fakes losing his arm by tying his sleeve in a knot with this absurd story about a woodpecker hole. But this is all just manipulation to gain sympathy so that Finn wouldn't be mad about the whole arm tearing off thing. But this all backfires, and we still get one of the most telling pieces of dialogue from him when Finn asks him if everything he says is actually a lie.
Well, is there any way I can tell the difference?
I hope not.
That "I hope not" really shows that Martin's deception is very much on purpose, because if Finn sees through him, other people might too, and Martin might actually have to face what he's become. But his manipulation and emotional vacuum aren't his only toxic traits. You know how the lone wolf archetype gets romanticized in media as this cool independent guy doing whatever he wants, answering to nobody, and it's supposed to read as freedom and strength? Yeah, well, Adventure Time completely dismantles that fantasy through Martin because it shows what looks like independence is really just cowardice, dressed up in slightly fancier clothes. On the Lam makes this devastatingly clear when Martin gets chained to this adorable koala bear and names him Martin too, saying the little hairs remind him of Finn's hat, and for a brief moment you think maybe he is capable of some real attachment. But that's all it is, a brief attachment. At the first sign of trouble, he throws out Martin 2 as a distraction. Go, Martin 2, save me! He then runs to loot treasure and drift aimlessly in space with the space moth while the bear fights for his life. By the comet, we again see him in space riding that space moth with no control over where he goes, kind of a metaphor. And when Finn again asks what really happened at his birth, he says,
Listen, Finn, no answer I give you will be satisfying.
And that's also a lie, because the truth would absolutely give Finn some closure, but telling it means facing his own failures. Martin embodies most toxic masculine traits, but without the usual aggressive alpha male bravado. He's got the con man style more up here. He's not trying to dominate people or prove how tough he is. He's not violent or angry per se, he's just completely self-interested and a textbook narcissist. Yet he is still kind of likable, right? Stephen Root voices him with this natural charm that makes you want to believe him even when you know you shouldn't, and that's what makes it so dangerous. And we know he's really capable of change, that he wasn't always like this, and that nuance complicates everything because maybe we can change him, maybe we can fix him, right? The show doesn't let us write Martin off as just a one-dimensional deadbeat father. In The Islands, we see Martin and Minerva had this genuinely loving relationship. Martin was a good dad to baby Finn. He'd found redemption from being a con artist and was living a normal life as a barber with a family that he clearly loved. but his past came back to hurt him when the hiders that he'd conned came back for revenge. Martin ran with baby Finn to a raft in an attempt to escape, but it veered too far and they came face to face with the Guardian, a giant robot that stops anyone from leaving Founders Island by any means necessary. So, in order to protect his son, Martin made the ultimate sacrifice.
I'll be back for you.
And then, all we get after that is baby Finn drifting in the ocean, eating endless bread from the breadstick wand. That's how he ended up in Oo, where Joshua and Margaret took him in. Martin loses consciousness after beating the Guardian. From the episode's promo art, we know that he wakes up on a pirate ship and had visible head wounds, so he definitely suffered some serious head trauma. But how much did that trauma really affect his memories or personality? I'm not so sure about that one, because we've seen flashes of that same Martin from Founders Island. Back in The Visitor, there's this beautiful parallel when he sits down with his legs around Finn, proving on some level that he still kind of remembers, right?
Look at this. You ever see someone sit like this?
And then Finn asks him about their past and his mother, and Martin tells this half-assed story about a tiger and a boat. Which is kind of true since there was a tiger when the hiders broke into their house. There's also the same visual of the Guardian and raft in both episodes, which shows part of him definitely remembers, but maybe not entirely. But as Martin continues his story, you can see that he gets visibly uncomfortable.
Your mom was okay, I don't know. Talking about it stresses me out. Maybe later.
Martin tells Finn that he always intended to come back for him, but never did. And then there's this uncomfortable silence, so to diffuse the tension, Martin puts Finn in a headlock. Classic emotional distancing through physicality. It's like he physically cannot let that conversation continue because remembering hurts too much and reminds him too much of his own guilt, so he'd rather wrestle his son than be honest. We also see in this episode that he named his escape pod the Mini after Minerva. And his hesitation before throwing out Martin too, who was very obviously a parallel to Finn, also kind of gives us a deeper look into maybe some sort of regret over losing Finn and Minerva. But what's that regret good for if he still continues to do the same things over and over again? It's not like he actually ever changes for the better. So yes, Martin suffered head trauma, and that may be the cause of some of his future behavior. And even though I may have said some other stuff about why he is the way he is on this channel, it's just a theory, a lessons of theory. But listen, hey, that trauma is probably part of the reason why he turned into someone who prioritizes protecting himself from discomfort and from danger and from his emotions above everything else. But over the years between losing Finn and meeting him in the Citadel, Martin could have tried to change. He could have tried to go find him or go back to explain to Minerva what happened, but every day he chose not to, every single time. Instead, he chose to go back to his old life with no strings attached. Freedom from responsibility, right? Because avoiding that pain, burning those bridges and just trying to forget his past was easier than doing the hard work of making things right. And the last time we see him, he again chooses escape. He chooses cosmic transcendence, escaping into a different existence rather than having one honest conversation. And that's Martin's story. And here is where Finn proves that he's fundamentally different from his father. In the tower, after losing his arm, Finn gets angrier than we've ever seen and builds this massive tower to space powered by pure rage, singing about ripping off Martin's arm as revenge. We've talked about this crash out in one of our other episodes, so make sure to watch that one. When he finally confronts who he thinks is Martin and grabs his arm, ready to do it, he realizes he's not capable of that cruelty even after everything Martin did. Unlike his father, who exploits or flees from vulnerability, Finn realizes that he can't be that selfish, and that's not weakness. That is what true strength is. Choosing not to tear off his dad's arm is this visual representation of Finn freeing himself from becoming Martin. By the comet, Finn has accepted that you can't fix your parents. When the Catalyst comet offers him a higher purpose, Finn chooses his messy mortal life with the people he loves rather than grand cosmic transcendence. Finn breaks the cycle that sons of absent fathers usually repeat because he actually had people who showed him what healthy masculinity looked like, which is where Joshua, Jake, and Billy come into this story. So, after seeing everything Martin represents, we need to talk about the father figures who actually showed Finn what healthy masculinity is, and honestly, the contrast is almost painful when you put them side by side. Let's start out with Joshua, who himself has a pretty interesting parenting style, which you could easily think is going in a toxic direction. Like, throughout Dad's dungeon, Joshua had pre-recorded holograms which are calling Finn a whiny baby and tells Jake to toughen him up, which again, on the surface, sounds pretty harsh and could have gone the route of a lot of those tough love dads who are really just emotionally unavailable but frame it as building character. But then you get to the end, when Finn faces this absolutely terrifying monster, when the final hologram plays and Joshua tells him what he really thinks. That he's so proud of him.
Finn, if you're seeing this pre-recorded holo message, it's because you finished the dungeon that I made for you. I'm proud of you. You're gonna do great things in this world. I love you, son.
That completely reframes everything that came before, because you realize that in the end, the tough exterior was never about tearing Finn down or making him feel bad. It was about preparing him for how dangerous this world actually is. The contrast between these two parent figures is so stark when you actually think about it. Joshua's methods were questionable for sure. He was rough and pushed his kids hard, but his harshness came from wanting to prepare Finn for a world that would try to kill him. He lived in a world with dangerous creatures and magic that could eliminate a human instantly. While Martin's charm was always just for his own benefit. In the comet, when the Purple Catalyst comet offers Finn an escape from everything that tethers him down to the world, Joshua's face appears at the mention of fathers, while Martin appears at scoundrels. Like, that kind of imagery is just too on the nose to ignore. And here's the thing that really grinds my gears. Joshua died, but he still thought about Finn's future. He still left behind all of these preparations and lessons. He wanted to be his father forever, while Martin stayed alive and actively chose not to be present in his life and chose the ultimate escape. Then you've got Jake himself, who taught Finn something equally crucial, which is that being emotionally open is actually a form of strength. In the episode Incendium, we see that Finn is completely heartbroken after Princess Bubblegum rejects him, and he's just laying there literally crying while holding a lock of her hair. Jake doesn't mock him or tell him to get over it or to toughen up or any of that stuff that you'd expect from your toxic bro friend. Instead, he walks through actual fire trying to find Finn a new girlfriend because seeing his brother in pain is unbearable to him and he just wants to help. Throughout the series, Jake teaches Finn about relationships through conversations and through his own actions, like in The Burning Low, where he explains intimacy tiers without making it too weird or shameful for the audience. And if you look at Jake's actual life, it's also full of things that traditionally get dismissed as unmasculine in those toxic frameworks. Like, he cooks, he's devoted to Lainey Rainicorn like he's not a player or anything, he raises 5 kids, he's present, and he's genuinely involved in their lives. Okay, maybe not as much as would be expected of him, he is a bit of a ditz sometimes, but he admits when he's scared or confused or when he's not sure about things. He talks about his feelings openly without being defensive about it, without attacking someone for questioning him. The difference between him and Martin is massive in terms of the quality of their masculinity. You can also see how much Jake has influenced Finn because over the series, Finn learns to actually take accountability when he messes up, like with the Flame Princess situation, eventually, and he learns to respect boundaries when Princess Bubblegum makes it clear that she's not interested. And again, eventually, he builds these healthy, adult-like relationships with Huntress Wizard and with others that are based on mutual respect instead of just need and projection and I want it, I need it, and I'm owed it, right? Next, Billy represents this third thing, which is that even your heroes, the cream of the crop, the alpha male, the super-duper masculine dude, sometimes they doubt themselves and what they're doing, and they question whether what they're doing even matters. But if they are truly positively masculine, they keep showing up anyway, for their friends, for their family, for the world. In the episode His Hero, we find out that Billy has become totally disillusioned with being a hero because he feels like all the violence he's committed didn't actually solve anything long term, that all the good he's done is just countered by everything else happening. Though, even with all of his doubts, Billy never questioned his responsibility. He knew that he was strong, he knew he was powerful, and that he was capable, and he still wanted to help people, albeit in a non-violent way. But towards the end of this episode, Finn's own experiences and his own belief in doing good ends up restoring Billy's faith. 2 dude bros just hanging out, chilling in a tub, being good to each other and holding each other up, you know? So Between Joshua's tough love, Jake's emotional openness, and Billy's willingness to show up even through doubt and uncertainty, Finn had this complete picture of what healthy masculinity actually looks like, which is exactly what makes this story so important. Finn had every reason in the world to become just like Martin. Most sons of absent fathers do end up subconsciously repeating the same patterns. They struggle with emotional intimacy, they bail when things get messy to protect themselves, they pass down the same emotional wounds. But Finn didn't do this, because Joshua, Jake, and Billy showed him something different. They showed him that he could be different. And that's the show's whole point, to give this positive image of what you can be. You're not doomed by your DNA or your biology or by any single thing. Traits can be learned, you can change, and chosen family and good people around you can teach you what sometimes biological family couldn't. In the end, you can see Finn's full transformation by the series finale. He tries diplomacy before violence, doesn't even bring a sword to the final battle, and he accepts mortality instead of seeking escape. He also stands up for his friends, is emotionally vulnerable, and is just this all-around good guy. In Together Again, Finn dies of old age after a full life, reunites with Jake in the afterlife, and when they're offered reincarnation together, he chooses to do it all over again. Even the 50th Dead World, the happiest peace one can imagine, Nirvana itself, isn't good enough for him. He chooses to go back and live life again with his family. Martin took the easy way out and escaped. He took the difficult way and shackled himself back into physical form just so he could live life again with his friends, his family, and to be a good person all over again. And that's the real difference. That is what makes a good man. We may not always realize it, but we gain a lot of ourselves and our understanding of how we should behave through the media that we consume. If we consume good media that teaches good lessons, and we understand those lessons and incorporate them into ourselves, we can become better people. We can learn not just through other people, but through lessons that we learn from everything. And if you want to see how Adventure Time also kept teaching these lessons throughout all of the weapons that Finn carried, make sure to check out our video on how Finn's swords taught us how to grow up.